Hey everybody, how you doing? It's John Mott from Video King, and we're going to talk in more detail about how support for tracking barcoded paper in our OMNI hall management system can improve the integrity and efficiency of your bingo game. So let's jump right in and get started. Okay, if you've been using OMNI for some time, you probably recognize this screen, the Manage Inventory screen. This is where you bring paper into the system, what we call a stock in, but also where you move it around from one location in the hall to another, like moving from your paper room to an issue counter before the session or back to the warehouse after you use the paper. And so in the past, what you'd have to do with this screen is go and select a product in the list and tell us that you're going to bring some in and how many you're bringing in, what is the series, what is the serial, and so on. You'd have to manually select those things. In the world of barcoded paper, it gets a lot easier because what you can do is put the system in a mode where you're scanning information off the box tops, and the system will go and figure out all the details that it needs. So for example, if I've got a box of paper sitting right there, I can just come along and scan the barcode for the serial number, the part number, and the case, and then that will allow OMNI to go and look up all the information it needs to add this product to the system. It knows, okay, we've got 301 booklets there, here's the series and serial. And for jurisdictions that are concerned about tracking the audit numbers of paper in play, this is a real big enhancement now, this part of our system. Now at the time that you bring paper in and when you're moving it around in inventory, now we know the audit numbers that are being used as well. In the past, the system would pick that up at the time that you issued it to the cashier. We would know which audit numbers you were giving out just while the paper was out on the floor, but now we have that fully tracked at all times in the system as well. And there are a couple other ways to scan paper as well, which we're going to look at here after we bring this one into the system. Then we're going to look at some other options for moving paper around from, say, the warehouse to the issue counter or from the paper room to the bingo cart and so on, because there's a couple different ways to scan paper there. If you don't have the box of paper handy, or let's say that you had brought in some of the paper last week, you'd open the box and now you've got a couple bundles left that you still need to put into the system. We're going to let you kind of come along and use some different methods to bring those in. So what we'll see here is, again, if I put the system into the mode where I'm entering barcoded paper, I've got a couple different options. Like I can, if I have a pile of booklets and I don't know how many are in there, what I can do is I can come along and say, okay, well, I'm going to add a pile of paper here, and OMNI will say, okay, we'll go ahead and scan the barcode off the top of that pile, scan the barcode at the bottom of that pile, and then again, that gives it all the information it needs to go and figure out what kind of product you're dealing with. Some of the other options are, if you, like I was alluding to before, if you have bundles of paper that you took out of boxes already but hadn't brought them into the system, you just give us the first barcode in that bundle and we'll figure out the rest of the details. And then I hope you don't end up in this situation too often, but let's say that somebody dropped a pile of paper and it's no longer in order and you don't know how much is there. What you can do is just scan one booklet after another. So if you've got this pile of mismatched paper, just come along and scan one barcode at a time, and then we'll go and add each one of those separately to the system. So you can see here as I was doing that, okay, well there was card number 828 and 839. So again, I hope you don't have to do that too often, but it's there in case you do need to deal with that kind of a situation. And then the last of these options is if you know that you have a stack of 100 booklets there, you can just give us one barcode and say 100, and we'll figure out all the rest of the details from there as well. So lots of flexibility there. Whatever situations you get into with your paper, there should be a good scan mode here to help you deal with it. And next we'll look at actually getting some of this paper out to your cashiers and floor sellers and making some sales. Okay, so here we are at the issue product screen, and we've already got some products stocked into our inventory location, our paper room. And in the barcoded system, what you can do is narrow it down so that you're only looking at the barcoded paper that you want to scan here. You know, if we're in a hall where we have a mix of barcode and other types of products, which is totally normal and totally valid in the system, you could have, say, your big games using barcoded paper and all your regulars using non-barcoded. That's fine. Here I've narrowed it down though, so we're just looking at the barcoded paper. This is what we just stocked in earlier in the video. And now all I have to do is come along, and if I have let's say that I have one cashier and 3 floor workers who are going to go out and make sales. I have a stack of paper that I've kind of readied ahead of time just for each one of them. And all I have to do is come along and tell OMNI, well, here's the barcode off the top of the pile, and here's the barcode off the bottom of the pile. And now it can go and figure out what audit numbers are going to this cashier. And all I have to do now in the system is hit the save button. So there I've just given some paper to my cashier. And now what I'm going to do is tell OMNI here, this is the new couple of buttons here, that I'm going to give this next batch of paper to a floor clerk. And the reason to do that is just we have some different tracking in whether we know that the paper is going to be sold at the cashier later on at the POS and scanned at the POS again, or whether we're never going to see it scanned again because it's going out onto the floor where it's just going to be sold out of somebody's apron or off a cart. So that's just to give the system a little bit of extra info about where we're going to see this paper next. So here I've flipped it over to floor clerk. I've selected one of my floor clerks. And now same thing. I just go and get my first batch of paper, scanning the barcode off the top and bottom of that pile. And again, OMNI's figured out which audit numbers that includes, and therefore the quantity of paper that I'm giving to my floor worker. So they come along and grab that one while I hit the save button, and so on. We just go and dish out the paper to each of the workers that are ready for it. Now, just like in the Manage Inventory screen, we've got a couple of different scan modes. So I've been using the top and bottom, which is probably the normally what you're going to be doing the most often. But we have those other modes that we looked at before as well. I can say, I'm just going to scan the top one, and I already know that there's 50 sheets in this pile. So I only have to scan once. Otherwise, if I was going to give a whole bundle to a cashier, I could just scan the top barcode of that bundle and then hand them the whole shrink-wrapped pile, and they would go and unwrap it themselves and make sales. Again, OMNI can figure out what was in the bundle when you do it that way. And finally, if I just had a pile of kind of random paper that had been turned in last session, and I just had 4 or 5 sheets here that I wanted to individually scan, they're not in order anymore, I can just scan each one of those barcodes as well. Okay, at this point we've issued paper to our cashiers and floor sellers, so now let's move on and look at what cashier sales are going to be like now that we can scan paper at the POS. So here we are at the cashier point of sale screen, and it's just like you've always used it before. I've got different pages of buttons here. I've got my shortcuts to different pages up at the top, and products arranged however I like. And I can go and add one of my new Champy tablets to the sale, get a couple of extra products in there, and what's interesting about the barcode, of course, it fits right into that. You've got buttons for barcode, but you can actually go and move all those to the end of the template if you want. Go to page 20 and put all your new paper products there now, because the cashier doesn't actually have to go and hit those buttons anymore. Instead, as soon as the cashier picks up a booklet and scans it, the system will go and figure out which product we're trying to sell here and automatically go and add it to the sale at the right price point and the right quantity. And so you get all the advantages of the new of the integrity and the ability to track exactly which paper card faces and audit numbers are going out onto the floor, just like you've always had with electronics in our system. Now you can do that with paper, and you're not adding a bunch of burden to your cashiers. They don't have to go and hunt around through pages and try to figure out where's that booklet or that special. Instead, they just scan it and the system will add it automatically. So you get all the advantages without adding time to the sale and slowing things down. And of course, barcoded paper products fit right into all of our existing features, like you can award player points on them. If I've got a new product here and I'm trying to push players to try it out, let's say I've got this new Bonanza, I can hook up promotions to it. So, anybody who buys one of these barcoded forons will automatically, in this case, get entered into a draw for a giveaway. Any promotion you can come up with, the barcoded paper fits right into it. So you get all these advantages without any slowdown or trouble for your cashiers. Barcoded paper just fits into all of your existing processes, and so for example in the balance session screen and all of our balancing reports, any transactions involving barcoded paper appear here and are part of these folks' balances. Now these particular employees here in the real world, what's already happened with them is I issued them some paper, they went off and did sales both at the cashier and at the on the floor. They've turned in their cash, and now it's time for them to return their unsold paper. So if we go back to the return paper screen, for those of you familiar with OMNI, it's the screen is pretty much unchanged, other than that we've added a couple of buttons for the barcode support. And if you've never seen the screen before, basically what happens is on the top half of the screen we see the products that are in an employee's account, and we're going to move those down to the bottom half of the screen back into inventory. So if I go and find my cashier, we're going to see the products that were in that person's account. And now they come up to the inventory counter and drop off a pile of booklets. And as long as they've kept it in order, we get to go ahead and do the scanning the top and bottom barcodes, which is the kind of the fastest and most convenient way to do it here, because then OMNI has the job of going and counting how much paper is in there, and it figures out exactly which audit numbers, which face numbers are part of this return. So now this person's dropped off all their paper. They say I'm done. We hit save. We get a receipt. Everybody signs off on it. And now we can go ahead and return paper from the floor worker, Alice, as well. So she's going to drop her pile of paper on the table. And again, she kept it in order, so we can still do the top and bottom booklet scans here. And so once again, OMNI will figure out exactly what products those are and return them. Now, if we go back and look at the balance screen, we'll see that Alice is good. Alice is balanced out for the night. Cashier, what's happened with this $18? Now, you've all been in this situation before where you've got to go and figure out why someone is showing a variance. And so let's say that cashier is saying, look, I don't know what happened. You start off, as always, by going through our review inventory and review vault screens and reviewing all the transactions that involved a particular person. We can go and find out that, hey, cashier, earlier today we gave you 19 of these 4-ons, and we have a whole host of other transactions here too. You can narrow these down to just that employee. Let's say that at some point the cashier says, oh yeah, well, you know what, there was one point where I dropped my stack of paper and I thought I got it all, but you know what, let me go have another look. Sure enough, they find 3 booklets that are now coming back to inventory here, and they're out of order. And so, you know, with 3 booklets, luckily it's not the end of the world. But what you can do is instead just scan each one of them individually. We'll just change the mode here to scanning individual sheets, and now we can go and return these one after another here into inventory. And once again, Omni is going and figuring out all the details of these products as we scan them. But so this is what you do in a situation where someone's coming back to you with some paper that's not in order anymore. So we'll go ahead and return those. That cashier is hopefully off the hook. Let's just go and double check in the balancing screen. And yes, so both of our employees are now balanced. We've got all this paper back in the system and ready to go and be scanned out and issued in the next session. So one of the things that we've touched on a couple of times here is the integrity and the trackability of everything that we're talking about here with the new barcoded products being tracked in the system. And so, you know, as you can expect, we've added several reports here to support this new feature. And so there's a wealth of information that's getting captured there about every product that you're using in the hall. Here, this one, the serial inbox information report, it's kind of like a snapshot of a particular serial number that's come into the hall. We can see that, you know, as far as the manufacturer is concerned, there's 5 boxes in this serial. What happened here at the hall is we only got 1 box opened and it had 3 bundles in it, so here's the information we're seeing on that. So the other 4 boxes are not spoken for at this point. Maybe they're still in our you know, our receiving area and they haven't been brought into inventory or what have you. So there's a bunch of reporting in there that's been added. So we've also added tools in the user interface to support this barcoded paper. For example, the vendor product info screen is basically like we've taken a page out of the manufacturer's catalog and reproduced it in the system here for you. Any one of the products that you're carrying in inventory, like this 4-on 6-up or this 6-on 10-up, you can click on there and then see a breakdown of every bundle that's going to be in a box that you receive of this paper, the audit numbers contained in that box and bundles, the color of all the paper in the booklet, and so on. Just a lot of information there about the products that we are tracking in the system. As you use paper in a bingo session, we're going to maintain the status of each card, each audit number, as it moves from, say, inventory to a floor worker through to actually being scanned at the POS and sold to a player and so on. So we can always update you on the status of paper that's been used in the session. You can narrow in on a particular user, a particular room, and so on. So here I can show exactly what's happened with the Omni cashier. We can see all the individual booklets that this person has been assigned, what's been scanned out of inventory. So a lot of information tracked there. If we ever need to deal with a piece of paper that is in a bad state, like maybe the paper got rejected by a player, like it was sold to them, and then they say, hey, this thing's got a big tear in it or whatever, we can come along to the Manage Booklet Status screen. First of all, it serves as just kind of a general update. Like we can see the most recent transaction that affected this product was the cashier returned this booklet to the paper room. We can see a history of the transactions in this thing's lifetime. But we can also come in and say, you know, we've got a problem with this product. I'm going to set it to inactive and say player spilled coffee. Like everything in Omni that's going to get tracked in our audit trail, we're going to be able to tell you later on exactly what happened with this audit number, with this booklet of paper. For those of you who've worked in inventory, you may have had the situation where you get a box of paper, but also a packing slip or so on, which indicates paper that's missing from the box. You know, the manufacturer found damage to it or what have you. So, for example, maybe they had to remove 781 from a box. So what you can do is you can scan that slip if they've got a barcode on it, or otherwise just the box top, and come in and tell Omni, okay, well, we know that audit number 781 is missing out of the box. And so if you do that, later on, when scanning a big pile of these booklets, if they scan a range that would normally include this audit number, Omni knows that that booklet is not present, or that product is not in that stack. So if somebody comes along and says, I'm moving, you know, by scanning the top and bottom cards like we've looked at so often, if they scan card number 600 and card number 800, and they're thinking that that's going to include this particular booklet here, well, Omni knows to skip that one. And so, you know, we can account for any errors in manufacturing and shipping that way. All right, so that about does it for an introduction to tracking barcoded paper in our Omni system. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to know more, please get a hold of us either through the website or by phoning your local rep, and sure would love to see you at a trade show or in person on site. So thanks again for watching, and hope you enjoyed it. Take care.